Okay, as you can see, we have a year, right, and the num year and the balance, right? So we at least we know that we have to create three variables. So, and then what 5% is going to be applied, right? So this is pretty much the 5% is a constant. And then let's assume that we have the constant variable called initial balance, which is $10,000. So the file, new file, right? And then I'll say that since the rate is a constant, if the rate is constant, it's a good programming practice to use, good programming practice to use all capital letter for the constant. So let's say rate is equal to 5%, right? So it's 5%. And then for the, let's say initial balance is also constant. So I'll use all capital letter. So INIT, I'll say just underscore balance. And then let's say initially I have $10,000. Okay. And then I'm going to ask the user to enter the number of years for the computation. So get the number of years for the computation. And so let's say num years, basically this one, num year, right? Num year is equal to int, so this is integer, right? And the input, and then please enter what? Enter number of years, right? And then loop. Let's say use a for loop. And so, and then we have another variable called balance, right? So at this point, before we get into the loop, so balance, okay, so we have another variable, let's just first initialize all the variables that we are going to use. The balance is now 0, and then here is 0, right? And then I think that's it, right? Number of years and balance. Okay. The balance at this point, at the very beginning, is the same as initial balance, right? And then I'm going to use a for loop for year. This is the variable that is going to be incremented by 1 in range. Let's say starting from the 1, right? Starting from the 1. And then num year actually plus 1. Okay, you have to put the plus 1. And then so basically my balance, right, is equal to balance plus interest rate, right? So which is the interest, the amount of interest. Balance multiplied by what? Rate. So this is going to be my new balance, right? So this is going to be my new balance. And then I'm going to print I'll say the year, and then what? Balance, right? Okay, so basically, do we really need to have, as you can see, one of the important thing is year plus 1. You have to increment year by 1. If you use the while loop, so one of the big differences between for and while loop is if you use the while loop, then you have to have this statement. But if you use the for loop, right, since you use a for loop is automatically, right, is whenever this statement is executed, right? The year, this variable, right? This year is going to increment automatically by 1, right? So the range is 1 all the way to what? 1 through a num year. So you always what put max plus 1, right? Maximum value plus 1. So that's why you have to put plus 1. And then, right? I think that's it. So let's just run this. So I'll say what? Investment. Let's say investment. Let's say invest. Invest.py Python file. So let's say 5 years. Okay. So after 5 years, this is the my new balance after 5 years. So basically, apply the compound interest, right? And then you can see how much money you will have in your savings account in 5 years after when you apply what 5% of interest rate. So this is a good. This is a typical example of the loops.